with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are so very thankful to be here in the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. And we're very, very thankful and grateful that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. And we would be so thankful if you subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. We are so very grateful that on this Thanksgiving Day, our guest is Pastor Mark Batterson, and he is here to celebrate the blessings of you. Before we invite Pastor Mark into the studio, we want to let you know that we are oh so grateful that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by the books by Lori Walmark. Lori is one of our favorite guests here on the show. You may remember she was here not too long ago to celebrate Hedy Lamar's Double Life, one of the many nonfiction books that Lori has written celebrating the lives of women in STEM. Well, Lori is doing something new right now. She has written her first fun picture book. It's called Dino Pajama Party, a bedtime book. Join dinos for a bash before bedtime. You know, like a lot of us, dinos love to have fun. Dinosaurs from all around gather together to play instruments, dance, and sing right before bedtime. But soon, dinosaurs grow tired and need their rest. This is a book that's sure to have kids following the dinos' lead as they get ready to go to sleep. We are so grateful that Lori Walmark is a great friend of the show, and we would love it if you could check out her latest book. It's called Dino's Pajama Party. Join us right now from our nation's capital. Our guest today is a New York Times best-selling author. He's the lead pastor of the National Community Church. Please welcome to the show the author of The Blessing of You, Pastor Mark Batterson. Hey, Pastor Mark, how are you?
Doing good, Jed. Joy and privilege to be with you.
I'm really happy that you're here. I received The Blessing of You not too long ago, a book that you wrote with your daughter, Summer, and it's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of my greatest memories as a dad are reading books to my kids. Those are precious moments, special moments. And you kind of have a captive audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when they don't want to go to sleep. They want you to read another book and another book. And so I look back on those memories with my kids when they were young with just fond feelings, and pretty fun to be able to turn around, write a book with my own daughter. And it's a book really that I think is pretty important, just helping kids understand that there are blessings all around us all the time. We just have to cultivate this ability to count those blessings, to see those blessings. And then, of course, the biggest blessing is the one that we look at in the mirror, that we can be a blessing to other people. So that's kind of the heartbeat behind the book.
You know, those messages are, I think, something that we are always telling our kids, but it's kind of like magic. Somehow when we're just telling our kids, you're a blessing, you can make a difference, they don't always hear it. But when we sit down and we're telling them a story and we're talking about these characters, it seeps in really strongly.
Yeah, it really does. And it lets someone else do the work for us as we're reading the book, because they're telling the story. And of course, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So, you know, a picture storybook helps as well. One of the things that we try to hit in the book is the fact that, you know, whether you're mad or sad or glad, there are still blessings to be found, regardless of how we're feeling in the moment. And I think teaching younger children and training them to just be able to identify those things, they're able to do it. They're pretty good at picking up on it. And it is really a fun message. And then what it allows parents to do. In my experience, when you're reading a book to your kids, it usually creates conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can begin to talk about, hey, here's what dad or here's what mom is grateful for. And then that kind of primes the pump and allows our kids to follow suit.
Yeah. Pastor Mark, one of the things I've been doing educational magic shows for 30 years in schools and churches, and it's been a blast. And one of the things I love to do is hand out little beads. We're going to do something magical with these beads, but I want you to, as we're waiting, please think about something that you're grateful for. And I'm blown away by some of the things. And I remember when I was designing the trick and creating it, my son, who is in high school at the time, he's like, Papi, nah, you shouldn't do this. You don't know what kids are going to say. You know, they're going to. We only had that happen once. But every other time, it's been, you know, I'm thankful for my family, my pets, my friends. And one little girl who is maybe 5 or 6 years old, she blew me away one day when she said, I am thankful that I am able to help other people.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's an automatic A right there.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah. We talk a lot about, you know, the benefits of reading with our kids. And of course, you know, they develop language, they develop a love of reading. But I think you'd agree with me that one of the greatest benefits that you gained from reading books with Summer was just starting that conversation that I'm assuming is continuing to this day.
Yeah, it's such a great conversation starter, and it gives you something to dialogue about. You know, in a good book, you're going to find points of identification.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the days in the book, I think, it's a rainy day. And sometimes on a rainy day, it can feel like, things aren't going my way. But even on a rainy day, you can dance in a puddle. You can find a way to have a little bit of extra fun. And so I think, yeah, what it does is it helps us parent a little bit more effectively, that we aren't just pulling things out of thin air, but it gives us those conversation pieces, especially at critical moments throughout the day. Especially at bedtime. I think bedtime is that's the magic story time when kids are just all ears at that point.
You know, as we're talking here and we're talking about helping kids, you know, understand all the blessings that are around them, even on those rainy days, I'm thinking that we need an addition of the blessing of you for teenagers, because and college kids, because they seem to be the ones that just have such a hard time seeing blessings in their lives.
Well, I think that's a pretty good point. As someone who has raised 3 teenagers, there's this old uh, truism that you don't see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. In a
Mm.
sense, we have these filters, and I think there are different seasons of life. And maybe the teenage years are some of those years where sometimes it's harder to take our eyes off of ourselves and focus on someone else or something else. But maybe, Jet, maybe there's a sequel in the mix here for teenagers.
Or maybe we can just encourage our listeners to sit down with their teenagers with this picture book and
Yes,
just
yeah, I love
remember.
it. I love it. I love it. For old time's sake, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Now, as I understand it, this is the second book that you wrote with Summer.
It is. The first book was another beautiful little book called God Speaks in Whispers, and this idea of learning to hear the still small voice of God.
Mm.
And you can hear that voice in a number of different ways, but some of it is just by looking around us and seeing his creation, and learning to appreciate everything from the stars in the sky to our very unique fingerprint.
Yeah, yeah. So important. I love that you've created books that gives parents an opportunity not only to spend some quality time with their kids, but also to share our faith. I think that that's something that's so very, very important.
Yeah, and faith can be such an intimate thing, and faith can be such a faith is hard to put into words
Hmm.
because it's beyond words. But sometimes a book can at least give you the entree to be able to talk about things, even the concept of prayer that you can talk to God with a 5-year-old vocabulary, and you can talk to God with a more sophisticated vocabulary. Either way, there is a God who loves the sound of our voices, and a God who I believe uh, answers prayer and does it sometimes in miraculous ways.
Hmm.
And so I think learning to me, Jed, I feel like reading books is almost like a seed bed. It's amazing how many memories I have from my parents reading to me. And, some of them are fun, funny memories about Harry the dirty dog, or, Alexander and his terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Some of them are more comical that we would laugh together, and they were playful. But I do think that books have the ability to plant seeds of faith,
Hmm.
and you never know when or where or how those seeds will sprout at some point in our lives and give children a measure of faith that then they can navigate the world with.
Yeah. I think having that faith is so helpful. It's, I don't know, kind of like giving your kids a vaccine against, some of the struggles that they're going to face.
Yeah, I think it prepares them. Sometimes it's preventative.
Hmm.
It's teaching them things in advance before they get into the situation. And and it's probably a little bit like a GPS system where you download maps and kids begin to hear stories, and that's how they begin to then navigate the world around them and operate. And kids' memories are such an interesting thing, aren't they?
Hmm.
That you never know what they're going to remember, like which little line from a book or which picture is going to be the one that somehow sticks in that right brain imagination. But that is the mystery and the fun of reading to our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And what mistake am I going to make that they're going to remember for the rest and throw back at me?
Hey, that's funny. Listen, the way I say it, and maybe this is me putting on my pastor hat, is you'll never be a perfect parent, but you can be a praying parent.
Uh,
And I think prayer can make up for a multitude of mistakes. And I think ultimately, the funny thing is, it is the mistakes that we make that give us the opportunity to model something called an apology. And that's one of the hardest lessons for kids to learn. So maybe, just maybe, that actually is one of our great opportunities as parents to make a few mistakes and teach our kids how to say that powerful little word, sorry.
yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I advise to parents all the time is as soon as you can get off that pedestal that your kids put you on, get off it, because that's a very dangerous place to be.
Boy, is that true.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of us we don't stay on there too terribly long. I you know we It's funny. Uh, there was a little counseling session once had where some concern was expressed that maybe some of my issues would become my kids' issues. And the counselor said something very, very wise. Well, of course. Then when they get older, you just send them to me and we'll have that conversation. Like all of us are a little messed up, right? All of us fall short, but there's got to be some grace in the mix.
Yeah. Yeah. Pastor Mark, we're going through some really challenging times in our nation right now. And one of the things that is so worrisome for me, we've always had differences of opinion. And even with my beautiful wife, we don't agree on everything, which I think is healthy. But it doesn't seem as if we're able to communicate with one another these days. It seems as if our nation is just getting into teams, and everything that someone on my team says is correct and I agree with them, and everything that someone on your team says is absolutely wrong and it means that I hate you.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable and it's not healthy.
No, it's not. And I feel like as someone who follows Jesus, I feel like it's my job to stand in the gap as a peacemaker, a grace giver, a tone setter. And how you say what you say is so very important. And of course, when you speak the truth, you have to do it in love. So I think what's happening, and this is my quick take, that distance has a way of demonizing other people. And so much of the way that we're relating to each other is through social media. And so often we're pretty quick to write people off who we don't agree with. And honestly, if you had the conversation face to face, it would be very, very different. So I think in an interesting way. And by the way, the average person spends 142 minutes on social media every day. So we're living a lot of our life on social media, and it doesn't convey tone.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't you can't read the facial expressions. And the danger with that is that you end up miscommunicating. And the last time I checked, no one wins a shouting match. And so we all seem to be raising our voices a little bit. So maybe a little bit less talking, a little bit more listening, a little bit more loving. And ironically, that actually does bring us back. So many people are relating to the world through their phones or through an app or through some kind of digital technology. And listen, I love technology. It makes my life easier. And there's some things that I enjoy immensely,
Mm-hmm.
that I am more connected with certain people because I get to see a picture that they post or I get to know what they're doing. And that's wonderful. But it's no replacement for the face to face, heart to heart. And call me old fashioned, but I even love holding a book in my hands. I kind of like the books made from trees,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about those moments where we are reading with our kids that helps us in a very personal way cultivate relationship. And right now that's swimming upstream a little bit against culture and the way things are going.
Yeah. Before we go, Pastor Mark, there's a lot going on in your church. You're the head of this church that folks worship in different places, and you have a lot of stuff going on in the community. Take a minute to tell us a little bit about that community, please.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. My wife and I have lived on Capitol Hill, just a few blocks from the Capitol building itself for 25 years.
Wow.
And so we started with a core group of 19 people, and I've had the joy and privilege of pastoring that church. It's growing into a multi-site church, a number of campuses, and impacting a lot of people. We are trying to love our city, not just build a church, but bless a city. And so we've got a DC Dream Center in a part of our city that's pretty underserved and under-resourced, where we're really impacting kids' lives, one life at a time. We've got a coffee house on Capitol Hill, where every penny of profit we give to kingdom causes. And then we gather on the weekends and worship together, really in all around the nation's capital, in multiple different locations. And so it is an interesting place to pastor, to say the least. as we try to really be bridge builders and reach beyond some of the things that are dividing our culture. I believe that the common ground we find in Christ, uh, it, it it overrides some of those differences that we have for a variety of different reasons, including politics. And
Hmm.
so we're trying our level best to love this city, to serve this city, and some really good things are happening right here in the nation's capital.
Yeah, it'd be so wonderful if we can all take the time to build that bridge that allows us to see the humanity that exists in each and every one of us.
Yes, absolutely. Each one of us created in the image of God. That
Amen.
makes us invaluable, irreplaceable, and it changes the way that you see people.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about the blessing of you and where they can find out more about you, Pastor Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. So markbatterson.com, people can see some of the pictures in the book and read a little bit of it, download some of it before they buy it. And then I am on social media, even though I might encourage less than 142 minutes a day. But at Mark Batterson on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and would love to connect in those environments.
Yeah. We've had a wonderful time speaking about a wonderful picture book, The Blessing of You, and we've been speaking with the author, Pastor Mark Batterson. Hey, Pastor Mark, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, my joy and privilege. Thanks for having me.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Jennifer Smith. She'll be here to celebrate the creature of habit. That's the next episode of the podcast. Hey, if you are the author of a great children's book, we would love to help you celebrate that book. There's so many different ways we can help you. You can be a guest on the podcast. It's fun. It's easy. Doesn't cost you a thing, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic book. You can take part in our monthly promotion program that will celebrate your book with commercials here on the podcast, with blasts out to our 55,000 plus social media followers, and it will also get your book displayed on our nationwide network of digital pedestrian billboards. You can check it out. Oh, and we almost forgot to tell you, you can also submit your book to our certified great read panel, and if they believe that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a certified great read. You can learn all about these services by going to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the author's Click Here button and scroll on down to our various services. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guest, Pastor Mark Batterson. Please be sure to check out The Blessings of You. Also want to thank our friend and our sponsor, Lori Walmart's Dino's Pajama Party. Check it out today. Have lots of fun with your little dinosaurs. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Michael Murphy. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to join together to thank you. Thank you so much for being part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family, and thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. We'll be looking for you on the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.